My creepy housemate. There's nothing like home, right? Well, depends. Depends who you share your accommodation with. Sometimes we complain about housemates that don't wash their dishes or leave a mess in the communal space. My case was a bit different. I lived with someone a bit more extreme than a lazy person. His name is James. At the time, he was 32 years old, a fatty, bald guy that used to smell of pepperoni pizza. He's been eating pepperoni pizza for 3 months. The cheap frozen quality in packs of 3. Sometimes he would eat the 3 pizzas one after another and never brush his teeth. In fact, you could smell his breath from across the living room. He was a brilliant jazz pianist, and it was really cool to jam with him. I play guitar. The fun part was only in playing the music. Nothing else, as his head was often up above in the clouds. There was a time where here, in England, magic mushrooms were legal, and in places like Camden Town, London, you would have been able to buy them almost everywhere. Even if they say the magic mushrooms are safe, any drug abuse leads to some sort of dementia at the end. Our house was a bit away from the transports and shops, so that most of the people who rented a room didn't stay for too long. Just for the time being, until they would have found a better place. Also, the house was a bit old and smelly. However, this wasn't the only problem. The problem was James. He was annoying. He would constantly ask to borrow money from the tenants and leave a mess everywhere around the house. I learned how to deal with him. Like, if he would ask for money, I'd say, "Later, I'm going to the shop. I'll pop at the cash machine and get something." Then I would pretend to forget and find similar excuses just to avoid saying no. The rent was very cheap, and I would cycle everywhere I needed to go, so the location of the house wasn't a problem for me. Things started to take the wrong turn when a couple of girls moved into the house. He would walk around the house naked, just covered with a towel, and accidentally drop it whenever he would meet them. And he would just smile. The first time it happened, I laughed it off. Seeing the face of a girl totally embarrassed in front of this round, pink, bald, sweaty, hairless guy was too funny not to laugh at. But by the third time it happened, I started to feel very creeped out. It had happened a few times when I was home in the kitchen talking to the girl housemates. He would just walk in, drop his towel, smile, try to make conversation, but we would just leave the room feeling uncomfortable of what we just witnessed. It probably happened lots of times. I only saw it happening 3 or 4 times. It's not all. When the girls would literally run away when they saw him, he would chase them up the stairs and confess his love for them, which it would creep them out even more. I can't imagine how disgusting it must have been for these girls tormented in this way. I'm not exactly too sure when I reckoned it was time for me to move out, but in one occasion, while talking to my next door neighbor, a very nice elderly lady, she told me she saw him once dancing in the garden or doing some sort of ritual. He was completely naked, all covered in engine oil, wearing a pair of knickers on his head, and singing some made-up Arabic song. I tried to reassure her. Maybe he was doing a video, as he used to play a lot with an old Super 8 camera, but of course, I knew he wasn't doing any video. He probably was completely out of his trolley trying to scare the neighbors with his weirdness. That was something I couldn't excuse or even laugh about, and alarm bells started ringing in my head. He wasn't just a pervert, he was fucking crazy. He had a cat, and the cat used to bring little bunnies inside the house. Of course, the bunnies would have been badly hurt. That's what cats do. They don't kill or eat them, they just play with these little creatures. I knew a vet that used to rescue bunnies for free. He had a garden full of them, but James seemed to love finishing the bunnies by snapping their neck and dumping them in a field near the house. In the field, there was a playground for kids, so I imagined some of the kids would encounter some of these dead bunnies while walking the park. He also used to do stupid things like asking to borrow a lighter, light up his rolling cigarette, and pocketing the lighter in front of the person he borrowed it from. He was a complete embarrassment to have around and a nightmare to live with. There are so many stories to tell. They all happened in the course of 10 months that I lost the chronology of the event. Like the day I came back from Glastonbury Festival to find him naked sleeping in my bed. I remember shouting to him to leave my room, but he wouldn't. I was so furious that I called the police before I would bash him with a metal bar off the scaffolds abandoned in the garden. But guess what the police told me? Note, it was 3 at night. They told me, you are both adults and you should be able to deal with this peacefully. So fuck the police. I started wrecking his room to get him out of mine, and it worked. Seriously, what would you have done? Cooking my own meal was also something to be careful of. I had to be present in the kitchen all times, or he would just spoon the food straight from the pot in his mouth if I wasn't there. Taking a bath after he did was also disgusting, as using the toilet after he used it. You don't want me to be descriptive. You know very well what it's like. A bath filled with pubic hair and brown spots of God knows what. And you know how disgusting it is to flush someone else's shit. I now live on my own, and I have absolutely no intentions to share my flat with anybody. I wished I would be able to tell this story in a better way, but English is not my first language, and honestly, I would like to forget about the terrible experience. Allow me to give you some advice. If you need to share rent with someone, make sure it's not a weirdo or a pervert.